Hello, I am Gizmo, your highly knowledgeable nerd.
And I'm Victor, his translator.
Okay, that is neither humorous nor polite.
See? You guys need me.
Jokes aside, our series will cover the basics of animal systems and certain topics involving those systems, such as homeostasis and organ systems.
As well as explaining what the circulatory and respiratory systems are, whatever they are.
They are the organ systems in your body that allow you to run your mouth and make fun of me, dude.
Dude, are you being smart with me?
Well, yeah, it's my job. So today we're going to be talking about the levels of organization in organisms.
Basically, atoms form molecules, molecules form organelles, organelles form cells, and so on.
There's more down the list, but yes, continuing from my partner, cells form tissue, tissue form organs, organs form organ systems, which will then make up an organism.
Pretty much. And here's a picture that can help you.
Precisely, and if one takes the extra mile, they can also classify organisms as individuals, which then make up populations, which then also as well create communities, then ecosystems from those, and then biomes, then biomes to biospheres, so on and so forth.
Gizmo, you look a little pale.
Sorry, just my respiratory system is working overtime to compensate for my excess speaking and low oxygen in my bloodstream. Homeostasis, you know.
Hey, those sound like good topics to cover later, but until then, you need a rest.
No, thank you, I'll be just fine. Anyone in the room is getting darker?
We'll be right back once the nerd wakes up. Alright, Gizmo, so now we've covered those organ systems. Time to talk about the other thing. What was it? Was it, homeostasis?
Homeostasis, actually. And it's actually a really good topic to discuss. See, homeostasis is the body's way of making sure an organism is healthy and stays healthy.
For once, you speak English.
Now, here comes your job. You see, homeostasis is a 3 to 4 step process. First, sensors in the body detect whenever something abnormal happens in the body. Then those signals are sent to the control center, or brain in most cases, which then process the information and send signals to the effectors, which in turn produce some sort of effect that will balance out the issue in the body. The body then does the process again to make sure the balance is achieved.
Okay, so let me think of an idea. So when you were hyperventilating earlier, your body was just simply trying to keep the amount of oxygen in your bloodstream normal, since you used all of it in your nerdy explanations. My best guess is that sensors in your body detect your hype and sent that to the brain, which thought you were extremely excited, so decided to send adrenaline to your heart to make it pump faster, which in turn caused your blood pressure to increase and your blood oxygen to be used quicker. Therefore, when the system was repeated, sensors found that your oxygen was low, so your brain was then told to tell your lungs to kick into overdrive, therefore somewhat fixing your oxygen problem. But I'm not finished. The brain also found out that the body was using way too much energy for way too many things, so it decided that to solve all problems, it told you to shut off, and you fell asleep.
Wow. How'd you figure that out? I mean, everything except the last part was correct. I'm pretty sure me blacking out was due to an oxygen deficiency in my brain.
Hey, I had to listen to your lecture on respiration and constantly re-explain it. I learned a few things, you know.
Well, great, because now it's time to talk about something that I believe younger audiences should be worried about hearing.
And that would be?
Have you heard about the birds and the bees, more specifically the scientific version?
Great.
Alright, I'm awake.
Great. Now what were you talking about earlier? I believe it was the respiratory and circulatory systems.
Oh yeah, those systems. How about we start off with respiratory? Okay, are you making fun of me, or are you actually demonstrating how that system works?
Both.
Well then, we all know respiration is basically breathing in air and breathing out CO2. How this works is that in mammals, our diaphragm expands, sucks air into the lungs through our nose and mouth and down the trachea, or the part of our throat that deals with actual air. Once in the lungs, the oxygen goes into small sacs called alveoli, which filter out the oxygen and diffuse it into the bloodstream.
Seems easy enough, but may I ask, I know it sounds stupid, but why do we need oxygen to breathe?
It's not exactly as stupid of a question as it sounds. Basically, all cells require a process called cellular respiration in order to obtain energy to function. It's a simple chemical formula. Basically, glucose, or sugar, and oxygen are taken and transformed into water, carbon dioxide, and ATP, which we all know is the main form of energy that cells use.
Okay, I get it. And this happens in the mitochondria of a cell, right?
Yep, and after the sugar and oxygen is converted into new forms, the carbon dioxide is then removed from the cell, carried back to the lungs via the bloodstream, and then exhaled out of the body.
Got it. And you also said something about the bloodstream. In other words, the circulatory system?
Exactly. Basically, the circulatory systems help distribute nutrients, hormones, water, oxygen evenly through an organism's body. In most cases, this system is aided by the muscular and cardiac systems with circulation. Animals such as humans contain closed circulatory systems, which consist of arteries and veins. Other creatures such as flies and spiders have open systems because they are so small they do not even require them.
Seems legit. Cardiac system basically means the heart.
Correct, and if you don't have one, then you're both lifeless and soulless, but we're not philosophers, just science nerds.
Moving on, what exactly is blood made of?
Most blood contains two different specialized cells, red blood cells and white blood cells. Red blood cells transport oxygen throughout the body and are rich in iron, hence why they're red.
And white blood cells deal with protection against bacteria invaders and are basically the cops in these highways.
Sure, let's go with that. They also team up with the platelets in order to repair any damages in the system, such as when you cut your fingers and it heals into a scab.
That's why whenever I get hurt, I bleed a lot, but then it eventually stops.
Basically, another thing to note is that all of these cells float around in a substance called plasma. This substance carries glucose, waste products such as CO2, and other nutrients through the bloodstream.
Oh, and before I forget, what exactly are arteries and veins? Aren't they the same thing?
Slightly different. Veins take fresh oxygen away from the lungs and deposit it into the body through capillaries, which are small vessels that allow the oxygen to infuse with the red blood cells and into the cells of the body. These capillaries then take the oxygen-deprived blood and put it back inside veins.
So that makes sense, I think.